time. That very rarely happens.
Excellent.
Hey, everybody. I believe we are streaming live into the beautiful I Love You Mika community. Can you all just say hi and wave if you can see and hear us properly?
There I see us. I see us. We are there.
Right. So, okay, I'm still fiddling with my buttons. You share it. Anybody else wants to share this? You know, if you need a laugh and you need to make some light work of some, maybe some, I like to say make light work of heavy shit. So if anybody's
nice.
got that going on and you want a bit of a lift and a bit of a laugh, then I know that this is going to be really fun conversation. Zane actually cracks me up. So we're going to have a lot of fun for the next little while chatting with you. So please go ahead and share this and spread some joy and spread some laughter and also spread some wisdom and some love, because my very special guest tonight, Mr. Zane Daniel, in his very fetching suit, I have to say. That's a compliment in England, by the way. That means it's a good one.
Oh yes, I know. I figured it out. I mean, it's not that difficult. It's not that much of a foreign language.
No, just to check. Some things don't translate so well. Anyway, you're looking fabulous. You are fabulous. I think you're an absolutely terrific and fabulous person. And it's brilliant to have you on Self-Love Talks. And just to give you a quick heads up to my guests, whoever's watching tonight, whether it's on the Facebook or whether it's on YouTube or wherever you happen to be watching this from, Zane I met Zane on the Higher Self Expo. He very kindly invited me to be a speaker on his very cool thing. So we're going to ask him to talk about that as well. So, but he's also a bit of a light worker, channeler of Hathors, and I'm sure he's got lots of cool cosmic, multi-dimensional things to talk about tonight. No pressure, Zane. And he's also a comic. Now, when I was doing the
no, I'm not.
We just literally just before we came on live realized how wrong I got this. I thought he was like some radical or like some, you know, not an exponential. Anyway, some weird word that when it was on your site, and I was like, oh, I wonder what that means. Something kind of comic. And Zane was like, no, you're actually a comic publisher.
Right. I write and publish my own comic book series. So
that's what you're very cool.
I'm not an extra dimensional comedian.
No. That's what I thought you were trying to say.
Maybe I should work on that. Maybe I could become that.
Well, you know what? I actually think you already are, because the conversations we've had, I'm like, yeah, you could be a comedian. It's actually, I think you're funny anyway. You make me laugh.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you for watching. Give Zane a hello, give us a wave, let us know where you're viewing from. It'd be fabulous to communicate with you this evening. So Zane, tell everybody really what, apart from being a comic book producer, can you tell us how would you introduce yourself? What would you say about you?
Wow, there's a lot. I mean, you know, and sometimes I like to go into a little bit of a backstory. I could do a little bit of that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, okay. So I always like to say that I was raised by scientists. My grandfather worked on triggers for the H-bomb after World War II. He was a chemist, and he worked with the US government, and he had to wear probably like a hazmat suit. I know he had to go underneath the ground and, you know, do all this stuff. And it was top secret for like 30 or 40 years or something after he was done. So, and then my father was an electrical engineer, and pretty much all my uncles on both sides of the family were electrical engineers. So I grew up in that scientific kind of mindset. And so we didn't talk about spirituality at all. And if we did, it was to snicker at the rest of the world. Ha ha, they actually believe this stuff. Right. Yeah. So it wasn't until, 40 years into my life that I finally had the transformation moment occur. And it came in the form of an ayahuasca ceremony, a very kind of like amateur ayahuasca ceremony. It was so much so that nobody even called it ayahuasca. We just did this thing, and we didn't know what we were doing. And I had this incredible experience where I was speaking to the voice of universal knowledge, and it started to teach me about the spiritual world.
How long ago was that, Zane?
What's that?
How long ago was that?
That would have been 2013.
Okay.
So yeah, but as soon as I heard that universal knowledge voice, I just took all my science knowledge and just went, nope, this doesn't apply. Like, there is no way that science can explain what's happening to me right now. And if they did, they would just say that it's some sort of a manifestation of my own mind, but I knew that wasn't true. I
Wow.
mean, ultimately it is true because we are all source. So it is part of me, but at that moment, most certainly it was an external voice that was giving me external knowledge that I had never thought of before and never even considered as possible. So it was telling me about past lives, and it was telling me that I needed to love more, and so on. So, I didn't totally get it at the time. Like, I did my best to understand what it was teaching me, and it really took years later before I really started to understand it. But the main trick here was that maybe a day or two later, after that experience was all over, I thought to myself, I wonder if I could continue to speak to that voice, because it was just so easy. It was so accessible. So I thought, okay, well, let's see if I can talk to it. And so I kind of went into a little bit more of a meditative state and asked questions, and I started getting answers. So yeah, I was able to speak to it. So the ayahuasca seemed to either alert me to the fact that my channel was open, or, it actually opened my channel. I don't know for sure which one it was, and it doesn't really matter, but that really began my journey. And I didn't even know channeling was a thing. Like, I didn't know what was happening to me at all. I'd never heard anybody even say channeling other than to say it like jokingly. Like, I didn't know that people could channel extra dimensional beings and angels and all that stuff. I just thought that was silliness, or I didn't even think it was silliness. I just didn't even know it existed. So when this started happening to me, I had no frame of reference for it. I didn't know what to call it. I didn't know anything. I just said that I could speak to a voice. And so I just called it the voice. And I started.
What did your father say? Was he like, oh no, he's nuts now?
Oh, I did not tell my parents. They had no idea. I was only telling people that were close enough to me that I thought they probably would be okay with this at least.
Good plan.
They wouldn't want to commit me or anything, probably. So yeah, and so I still just looked at it as this goofy thing that I could do, almost like a party gag or something. Like, I still didn't take it very seriously. Nobody else really did either. But when I would say, hey, why don't you ask the voice a question? And they would go, really? Oh, okay. And so they would ask a question, and then I would do my thing, and then I would say what the voice said, and they would go, oh my gosh, how did you know that? And so they started to kind of convince me that what I was getting was somehow beyond me still. And then I accidentally came upon, I think it was Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar. And then once I heard him like trance channeling, I went, okay, that's what's happening. I'm not going into a trance so much, but now I actually understand that this is a thing, that it's not just me that's doing this.
I totally right. First of all, I just want to say, I think you're really courageous for having been raised your entire life in that completely scientific reality, and to just say, okay, I'm going to put all of that over there because I can't relate to that anymore, because this is where I'm at. This is my reality.
Real.
That is, for me, I get goose pimples about that, because I think that's super courageous to actually, and I think this is super relevant for a lot of people right now, maybe in a different context, or maybe not actually, and we'll find out what everybody thinks, but to take one sense of what this is the reality, and it's proven, and it's science, and there's no arguing, because science has proved it, and for you to, in that moment, that awakening moment, to go, actually, that's really not, it's not how it is, and just to chuck it away. Like, I think that is super brave. And so for anybody that's just having maybe a reality crisis right now, which I think, hands up, who's been having a reality crisis? I think we'd get a lot of hands if we were in a room here, Zane.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, here is perhaps permission, or here is perhaps a validation if you're experiencing something similar like Zane, where you're going, I don't know what's real anymore. I've been told this is real, and yet I'm having these experiences, and as yet unvalidated, because at that point you weren't validated. You didn't know what it was. You didn't know what was going on. You just knew, my reality checkpoint just goes, that's not actually real. This is real.
Right.
Like how confirming for other people. Yours is very kind of, yours is quite an intense version of that, which speaks to me a lot about the kind of person you are and the kind of heart you have, that you would just go, no, I know the truth when I feel it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that for me is a really strong message, I think, for anybody watching this, that, you know, you can actually do that. You can throw away, if you like, one version of reality for you if it doesn't work for you, and you go, actually, it doesn't actually feel true. And I know there's more, because you know there's more, right? You know there's a lot more now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it was wonderful because I didn't go through the dark night of the soul. I didn't go through this like self-blame for saying, oh, I believed this one way for 40 years. And now, you know, I've been wrong all this time. And I didn't start judging myself for that. I just looked at it like, well, of course I thought that way. You know, what else would I have done? And so I was able to tackle or to go forward with this new possibility, that like a child that was exploring. I approached the spiritual world with great joy, because really up until that point I felt pretty confident about how I had figured out the world, you know, that science had a lot of it figured out, and that I had a lot of figured out. I was a producer in the video game industry, so I was fairly successful. I had a big house and a relationship and all kinds of great stuff. I had been investing in real estate and all this. So, you know, I had kind of felt like I figured out the world, you know. And so at that point, I was so excited to be a child again, to say, okay, good. I don't have it all figured out. I don't want to have it all figured out. I want something new to explore. So, and I was starting to go through some anxiety, I would say, about the real estate and all that, because that would have been about the time that real estate didn't go very well, and we were having economic issues, and I was trying to make sure I held on to the house, and so I was adding some extra stress and pressure on myself. So this new world made me go, oh well, you know what? None of that stuff really matters. That I'm so
I'm
worried
going to live
about.
in a van and grow my hair long and run away.
Right. Yeah. So I can do whatever the heck I want to, and I don't have to worry about all that junk so much. So it really came at an amazing time, and I'm so, grateful that it did.
So you're saying that that the business, the house, that everything that you were doing, I would say your worldly success in a sense, what happened to that? Did that just lose its glamour, or had it already lost its glamour, or it's just this newfound childlike innocent joy just took over? What was that transition like?
Yeah, I would say that third one that you said there, the childlike joy. But because the house and the real estate and all that jazz was starting to become stressful, it was nice to be able to go, okay, I don't have to be focused on that all the time. I can be focused on much bigger and more important things. I went from just trying to create this my own little world, my own little bubble of success and safety and comfort and all that stuff that we as three-dimensional matrix people do focus on, to being able to say, wait a minute, maybe I could help others. Maybe this could be a new way of being. And instead of being just focused on me and my girlfriend and just that little world, I could go, there's lots of people that I could help instead.
Nice.
And
So
that would probably be,
thing.
that would be more rewarding. What?
You said you wanted to focus on bigger and better things. So that bigger and better things was that childlike joy with how can I help people? Is that what you mean?
Yes, absolutely. And so that actually led me to starting to write the comic book. Comic book series is very simply an enlightenment story for the world, how the world can wake up. And I just started writing it because I thought, there needs to be a way to make it so everybody wakes up. And by waking up, the main concept of the story is just simply waking up to helping others. So that starts off with a greedy corporate analyst who is doing what I was doing. He's just trying to create his own little bubble world and live the American dream. And then he has this kind of supernatural moment occur where now all he wants to do is help others and not really make money for himself anymore. But he's reluctant to it. He's like, no, I don't want to lose my job and my house and my wife and my, you know, all this stuff. But he discovers fairly quickly that there's so much of a reward that he receives from helping others that he's like, oh, well, maybe this isn't so bad after all. And so he begins to do all of these things, and he's watching himself lose his house and his wife and his job and everything because he's so dedicated to helping others. And then the twist of the story is that every time he helps someone, they get it too. So they have to help people. And so that's my way of spreading that enlightenment to the masses.
That's beautiful. Sounds like the classic superhero. A supernatural thing happens which disrupts his whole reality, and he's not just your normal Joe. Is, you know, life isn't
right.
that insular.
But what's cool is he's still a normal Joe. Like, there's nobody wearing superhero costumes or anything in this. This is just regular everyday life with that tiny element of the supernatural, which is just simply, I'm forced to help others. And then you discover that you actually love it and you don't even have to be forced anymore.
Wow, that's really beautiful. So, one, how can people find out about this comic? Because it sounds really cool. Is it on your website?
It's on a website. It'd be a little bit hard to get to it through there, but Righteous Comic it's called Righteous. And so
that's the word I saw. I was like, Righteous Comic. I was like, does this mean that Zane is one of those guys that just is like on his soapbox ranting about something in his righteous way, you know, being funny about it? I thought that's what it actually you were trying to tell me.
That's hilarious. No, the comic book is called Righteous, and righteous.com was not available, so I had to get righteouscomic.com.
Okay, so people can find that. You know, if somebody would type that into one of the comment boxes below, that would be super cool, and then you can go and find it, because that's epic.
Yeah, and if you go free.righteouscomic.com, you get the first chapter for free.
free.righteouscomic.com.
Yeah.
Do it. I'm going to do that when I'm finished. I want to go and see the comic.
Yeah, and I'm also working on getting it turned into a TV show. We've written the pilot script, and so I'm working toward finding the funding, finding the publisher, you know, that sort of thing.
Right. Cool. So you started helping people. Was the Higher Self Expo, did that come out quickly, or is that?
No, that's fairly recent, actually. Okay. It's actually because of COVID. So because what happened is that I ended up, my girlfriend and I split up. We sold the house. You know, everything changed. I left the video game industry, and I thought, you know, the thing that I really have been wanting to do most of my life is live in an RV and drive around the country or the continent and do stuff fun, you know, do fun stuff. And so I realized, well, wait a minute, I could kind of merge that desire with this, and I could go around and give talks. And so I've given talks at the Awaken Empowered Expo in Detroit and the Conscious Life Expo in LA. And so that's what I set off doing. So I did. I'm sitting in my van right now. You can kind of see part of it. It's built out with a bed and the kitchen and the whole deal.
Is this the interior of your van? Is this your interior decor? Because I was like, is that one of those filters across the back?
No, this is where I really am.
Did you paint that inside your van?
I worked with someone, an amazing artist who actually, she painted almost everything in here. And in this case, she just did the outline and I painted by numbers.
Oh, I love that. I miss paint by numbers. Oh my goodness. So you actually had the full life change. You went the whole hog. You did everything.
Everything.
Okay, so before we go on to what that van is all about in a minute, just talk us through that transition. So I just kind of want to give everyone a moment just to feel into that for a moment. That complete and utter reality changeover, total reality shift for you, brought up in science, doing the job, doing the house, doing the money, doing the me, doing the whole thing, to actually you did move into a van, and now you tour around and you do these talks all over the place, and you're being super creative, and you've got this beautiful message about higher self and about giving and everything. And it's like that crux inside of there, that midpoint. Was there fear in there? Was it just excitement? You know, how was it for you to let go of so much? And it's almost like, was it a push away, as in that stuff is repelling me and I'm going towards something and I don't know what? Or maybe it was the thing drawing you towards it so that you didn't really have the fear. But what was it? If you get to the real crux of it, how did that feel for you?
Yeah, it was a little bit of both, I would say, because I was getting, I've been in the video game industry for 22 years, and I had a recent experience near the end of that career where I was working on Mortal Kombat 10. And Mortal Kombat, if you're familiar with it at all, it's one of the most brutal games in history. I mean, it's the 10th version, and it came out in the 90s, and it really became popular because of its shock value. So it's just a simple fighting game, but it became popular or became well known because there was a move where you could rip the spine out of your opponent or something like that. And so as it continued in its expansion, they have to continue to up the shock value for every version. So here I am working on version 10, and what they're doing is they were using like X-ray view so that you could look inside the body to watch the bones shattering from the critical hits on the people, and you could hear them screaming in pain, so that you could really see how brutal you were being to your opponent.
How many of these games sold?
Oh, a lot.
This was like
I don't even know. I kind of didn't want to know. So I didn't keep track of that. So what ended up happening was we were working on the version for the computer, the PC, and it was about 8 hours late. We ran into some problems with the, whatever technical issues. And our office received death threat calls because we were 8 hours late on delivering Mortal Kombat 10. And the owner of the company that I'd been working with for 22 years, this was the first time we ever worked on a Mortal Kombat title. He came to me and he was just like, "Oh my gosh, what's wrong with these people? What is happening?" And I said, "Think about it for a second.
Yeah.
What's our target audience with this? Like, they want brutality, and if they can't get their brutality in the form of the video game, then they're going to threaten it in the form of real life." And he's like, "Oh my God, yeah, you're totally right." So, we're so insulated, or we're just so used to, well, games are just games, right? Like that had been our mindset for all that time, that and when people said, "Oh, it's because of games that people are more violent," or whatever, we'd go like, "No, they were going to be violent anyway." You're right. Like you justify it. And so it was at that moment that I went, "Okay, I have to be done with this now. Like this. I can't keep doing this. This is not helping society in any way." So that was happening at the same time as my childlike joy of this new world. And when I started to discover that I had spiritual gifts and that I could help people in more ways than just talking to them, that really said, okay, that's the direction I have to go in. I'm super excited about. I'm done with this. 22 years. That's plenty. and so it was really quite smooth from a should I give all this stuff up standpoint. I had already been thinking about buying some land in Tennessee and starting a permaculture farm. So I was already.
Someone even messaging me today wanting to do that, literally today, going, "I want to buy land and build a permaculture farm." I mean, like, how many people dreamed of that?
Right. Yeah. So that had been kind of rolling around in my head up until that point anyways. So I was already ready to get rid of the house and get rid of the everything, get rid of the job and go do something like that. But so when the light worker possibility came up, I went, "Oh, okay. I think I probably prefer that, at least at this point in my life."
Sounds like a really cool collision. And this is, I think, because I've been talking quite a lot with people about decisions recently and making transformational decisions. And in fact, I've been posting about, that the decision that perhaps every single one of us needs to make, like right now, at this time, at this juncture in our history, in our reality, or at least we've made decisions which have landed us where we are right now. And it's like, it sounds to me that although there's the flow and where your life direction was going, you've got this joy, and that seems really prominent, this joy and the innocence. That feels incredible, like wonder. What if? What could happen? What can I experience if I'm beyond just me? I'm in that bigger bubble, and it's a we thing, right? but also,
Right.
I mean, that, what you talked about with the video there, it just sounds like, oh my goodness. I mean, how bad do things have to get? Like death threats in your office, for example, which was yours. How, for each and every single one of us, how bad do we have to let things get before we're almost like, oh, I've got to make this choice now? And maybe a lot of people don't have that beautiful spiritual awakening that you had, and got connection to the voice of the knowledge of the universe, and got that innocence and that joy. I don't know how many people have that experience, but definitely a lot of people would have the, how much more of this bad can I take, and where's my flow, where's my exit point, where do I go from here?
Right. Yeah, and really excitement, you know, Bashar, Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar, talks about excitement all the time. And it's interesting because if I look back to my life, I always followed my excitement. If I loved aquariums, and so I had lots of fish and plants, and then I started a small business on that. I love video games, so I went into the video game career. I loved certain football, you know, things, and so I created a website on that. So like I always followed my passion throughout my life, and it always led me to something beautiful and amazing. And so that is usually your number one clear clue, and the way Bashar says it is, follow your highest excitement with no expectation as to the results, so that you're open to whatever it is that it leads you to, because you can't possibly know that it's going to lead you to something completely different than you'll be even more excited about if you just stay focused on, I'm only excited, like the comic book, I'm only excited about having millions of people read my comic book, and everything else, who cares, right? No, you go, I'm passionate to create this comic book, and hopefully it's gonna see, lots of people are gonna see it, but you know, maybe it'll lead me somewhere else, or maybe, and that's exactly what happened, because I was open to where it might lead me. I was able to find the light worker avenue, which I didn't even know existed when I first started writing the comic book. So then the other thing that I've used over the years to help people when a decision is coming, I love this one. All right, so let's say you're trying to decide between this, you know, life A or life B. And you're like, well, life A, I really like it because it's got my family in it or whatever, and it's safe and secure and it's familiar. Or I've got life B, which I have no idea what would happen, and it could be crazy. I'm pretty excited about it, but I'm kind of worried, you know. So then the way I describe this is, imagine that you could clone yourself, and that one version of you does one option and one version of you does the other. Which one would you be most jealous of? that will tell you every time what you want to actually be doing. And it's so instant. It's just like, oh, well, of course I want to do this one. Well, then what are you doing?
Okay, so everyone watching this, I want to know which path you would be, like life A or life B, and what would it be about that life B that would make you so jealous? What would it make? That's so cool. It's like using the polarity of feelings to go, well, what would I be jealous of somebody else doing? Or if I saw another me doing it and I wasn't doing it and I had to stay home and carry on my boring. Right, it's like, what that jealousy can help you find actually maybe what you really want to do. Right?
What your excitement actually is. Yeah.
The wisdom and the luxury in your, if you like, contrast. That is brilliant. You know, and you keep, as you're speaking and talking, it's like, I really feel this heart of a child in you.
Yeah.
You know, and isn't that the way into the kingdom of heaven? Isn't that the path? Isn't that the path that actually everybody wants to be on? Is whatever you call heaven, utopia, happiness, bliss, you know, whatever, fifth dimension, whatever word you want to call heaven. But it's like that, I'm so happy. And it's like, wasn't it, was it Henry Miller that said, follow your bliss?
It might have been, actually, yeah. I'm not sure for sure, but we've certainly heard that a lot, right?
I think I had it on a greeting card and I stuck it on my wall years and years ago. I was like, yeah, what does that mean? Follow my bliss. What does it mean? I had no idea. But I completely agree. I mean, I'm not going to, everybody knows my story, but basically everything that's happened to you, I can go, yep, that happened to me too. Yep, that happened to me. Yep, that happened to me too. Totally did not know what was going to happen. Just go in total trust and openness and trust my heart, trust life. But what you said, oh my God, I so want to ask you about channeling and Hathors and your decor. but you keep saying things. And so is it okay? No, go quickly, because this is interesting, because I was thinking about this. You know, when you run things in the back of your head and you're kind of thinking and pondering on something whilst, I don't know, shopping or something or washing up. And I was doing this earlier, and I was thinking about how desensitized people have become. I feel desensitized we've become because of the violence in the movies, because of,
Right.
I mean, almost as well, not just, I mean, yes, it's what we're seeing in the media, in terms of fictional media. We see a lot of that violence, but I'm also thinking in terms of what's being represented as the real truth news media, and the amount of horror and violence that we see on there, but also suffering and deprivation and problems, and like, how many things are people taking into their psyche on a daily basis, monthly basis, yearly basis, like you said, 22 years in a video game basis, of basically people going through absolute hell one way or another. And after a while, have we all maybe slightly become desensitized? And I'm maybe not even maybe or slightly, you know, maybe actually a shitload of desensitization, so that when we see it, we just kind of numb out and go, oh, it's just another problem, and we let it happen. And we're not responding to the real horrors that are being presented to us, perhaps right now. Perhaps something, you know, things are happening in the world which are really, really not okay. But perhaps we've become so desensitized with all this influx of media and, you know, in a sense, brainwashing, that we're not reacting to it when we're seeing it. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, most certainly. And I really like this because there's a lot of things to say about it. First of all, it depends on the group. If you're talking about empaths, then no, they can't ever really become desensitized to it, because they're taking in all of the emotions of the experience every time. So every time they see something, nope, not desensitized. They feel awful for this group or this person or this situation or this, and it's actually a problem in the opposite way of what you're talking about, because it lowers their vibration and lowers their vibration and lowers their vibration. They're focused on anger and fear and disappointment and impatience and grief and shame and guilt and all of these lower vibrational emotions, which then only contributes to the lower vibrational emotion of society, of the earth. So for that group, I say, don't watch the media, don't watch the news, separate yourself from that as much as you possibly can, and instead you work on the emotions above the neutral line. So go into acceptance, go into optimism, go into excitement, go into gratitude, and go into love. And when you're in those things, and now you're helping raise the vibration of the planet. Okay. So now you talk about the other group, the group like the fans of video games, right? They're not necessarily empaths. They're probably a little bit more, you know, normal, whatever that is. And so they're the ones that are becoming desensitized to these things. And so rather than look at it and say, hey, this is pretty screwed up and we might want to do something about it, they're going, yeah, whatever. It happens all the time. Don't care anymore. I'm just going to go play my video game or whatever. So now that group is the one that needs to go, well, wait, maybe I can help the world. Maybe that group is the one that needs to go through that transformation like I did, where they can have this aha moment that actually I shouldn't just be making money for myself, or I shouldn't just be buying my next video game or my next car or whatever. I should see if there's a way that I could help the rest of the world. They'll finally feel a lot more satisfied or rewarded or fulfilled, which they've been trying to do through buying things. And they will be really proud of themselves for actually having done that. And they will help raise the vibration of the planet. So, you know, I think it depends kind of on the group that we're talking about. And I talk an awful lot about the most important thing that you should do is raise that vibration, have those positive emotions, And for those that are saying, that are having the weight of the world on them and go, oh, but there's all the plastic in the ocean and these animals are being killed and being tortured and we're eating them and children are being abused and, you know, there's racism and, you know, seeing all the different problems that we're experiencing and going, gosh, what can I do? I can't do enough. There's nothing I can do. Oh, this is terrible. Empath, feeling it all, can't make any progress. To that group, I say, go back to the Bashar statement, follow your highest excitement. So if you're running through all those and you've got one that you just go, plastic in the ocean, just got to fix this. I don't care. That's your thing. Everybody else is going to do the same thing. And they're doing amazing things right now. People are making huge changes and making huge progress. And so you just have to trust that there are other people just like you that have excitements in different areas. And they're really working on that. I mean, like the plastic in the ocean is a perfect example. There's all this technology that's being developed right now to go out into the ocean and just collect it all. And so, you know, that's a fantastic thing that somebody or multiple people who are very innovative are working really hard to solve. And then there are others that are working on all the other aspects. So find the one, you know, homelessness, starvation, like find the one that you're really excited about and start down that path. And the way that you start down a path like that, where you might go, well, I have no idea how to help people who are homeless or how to help whatever. Imagine for a minute that you had all of the resources that you need. Imagine that you had billions of dollars. Imagine that you had a team of incredible people that understand logistics and all the things that they would need to understand. Imagine that you have had the education that you need. Imagine everything is available to you right now and go, which of those things would you hit first? That's going to tell you where your passion is, where your excitement is. Now you start to kind of imagine what that might look like. Oh, okay, I get some contractors together. We start seeing like we could build tiny homes or whatever you want to do about the homeless thing, for instance, and imagine and have fun imagining solving that problem. Then once you're all done with that and you go, okay, that is definitely my excitement. I have a plan. I mean, it's a plan that I can't really execute on right now, because I don't have billions of dollars. I don't have a giant team. I don't have all the education. So now what would be the first step to get there as who I am, exactly as I am right now? Okay, well, maybe it would be that I should take a class on city planning. Maybe I should take a class on building tiny houses. Maybe I should, maybe I've got a friend who's a contractor. I could reach out to him and just talk to him about it and just throw it out there just to see what kind of thing he has to say. And the next thing you know, you're starting down this path. Oh, I know the city planner for this. You should call them. Oh, okay, I'll call the city planner. And then the next thing you know, you're walking down this path of actually making some sort of huge difference in your world. And then the magic of the universe kicks in, because once you take the first step, the universe conspires to help you do with the thing that you want to do. And things will suddenly start to appear that make it easier and easier. And you'll get more and more excited about whatever this thing is. And you can, like I said a minute ago, you can trust that other people are doing the same thing for all the other categories out there that need help.
And that's the lift out of the helplessness, because that's what I'm seeing so many people who are in that empath group just completely weighed down by it. And I had a period of time today when I felt like I was super tuned in and just feeling the empathy of everything. And it's like, whoa, and it can really bring you down like a lot. And that helplessness can kick in. And in that helplessness, it's like nothing can happen. You're just digging a hole deeper and deeper and deeper. And that is not serving you or anybody, is it? It's not the way. I love your suggestions. And you get guided as well. Maybe you might even think you're going to help solve the plastic in the ocean, and you end up saving pandas or something. You don't even know.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's the no expectations. Yeah. You're open the whole time to see where it takes you, what happens next.
And I was thinking, okay, quickly, I just want to mention this. The people that you were talking about in the other category, who you said that they were perhaps not so sensitive or not empathic or less empathic because they're not aware. And I was really thinking about this today. It was really like running through, and I'm like, but in my experience, every single child that is born is sensitive. We're all little bags of water. We all pick up on vibration, you know, pretty much give or take the same extent. Some of us have, you know, a sort of extra gifts or extra abilities, or we're stronger in one area and less strong in another. But I'm like, pretty much everyone has the ability to feel, unless there's been some kind of horrific trauma in the pregnancy or in their birth, or something which has numbed them out at a young age and desensitized, and hence they grow into sociopaths. But pretty much most, right? Because that's the definition, right? If you're not able to feel empathy, you're a sociopath. And is that what's being created, a world full of sociopaths, or a world full of numbed out people who just cannot bear to feel anymore and switch off and go, I can't deal with feeling because it puts me into that helplessness. So to protect myself from feeling helpless, I'm just going to focus on me. I'm not going to focus on others. And I'm just going to survive. I'm going to do my survival trip, and I'm going to try and, you know, get success from something, which is a little bit like trying to get blood out of a stone, because that's not really where success comes from. Right. But people try anyway, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And
they spend their whole lives doing that.
Most often to their detriment, one way or another. It's a soul drain. It's not good for their mind, not good for their heart. But yet people have tried it. So we see people, you know, desensitized, numbed out, and I think maybe afraid to feel again because of the feelings that it might bring up of like that helplessness. What do I do? Feeling like a child, feeling that innocence, feeling that vulnerability that's actually waiting underneath all of that, those protective layers of closed offness. You see what I mean? And to anybody who has a degree of that, which I think is a lot of people, I just want to say, you know, if you listen to Zane's story here, it is completely safe, and I want to second that, and I'm sure a bunch of other people will second and third and fourth there. It is completely safe to trust your inner child. In fact, you will be safer, because you'll be living almost with your 2 feet on the ground in a world where you can feel your way through, and you don't have to get bogged down by the empathy and feeling everybody else's stuff. Once you start tuning into you, you can feel what's yours. You can feel your own drive. You can feel your own heart, like feeling your own pulse moving through you, right? Feel your own passion moving through you, which is going to take you down that road to follow your bliss, follow your higher calling, and trust the inner child, because the inner child inside every single one of us is so wise. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
But coming back, so also I was thinking, you know, if people are getting a bit stuck, perhaps they could do what you did and start communicating with the knowledge of the universe.
Absolutely.
Like, how do people do that, Zane? I mean, yours was like maybe
right. Well, this is great because it ties so perfectly into the child aspect that we were just talking about too. Right. So I like to say it like this: in each of us, there is a child and there is a master. And the child is the one that wants to go outside and stomp in the puddle, or watch the ants on the sidewalk, or explore their world, right? Or play a game. We have that within us. Sometimes it's been very tamped down over our years. But that is a wonderful thing to access. And we do access it, but you can actually make it come out a little bit further, or a little bit more, just by taking some very simple actions. Next time you're walking down the sidewalk, skip instead of walk. Next time you're in the grocery store, juggle the cantaloupes or whatever, right? Like, be goofy, play, you know? And then, so that's kind of to help bring that version of yourself out. But inside of each of us is also the master. Now, the master comes in many forms. Maybe it's the voice of universal knowledge. Maybe it's your higher self. Maybe it's your guides. Maybe it's a collective. Maybe it's a family member who has passed. Doesn't really matter the identity of the being that you're talking to. Whoa.
Just had a blackout. Carry on.
Well, I'm kind of impressed that we're still online.
Batteries.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, well, I'll continue to carry on. You enjoy your darkness. Okay, so anyway, so yeah, that's crazy. You've got a lot of batteries because you're even connected to the internet still, which is amazing.
That's because Please don't knock anything over me. No, I've got anyway. My Wi-Fi situation is a bit creative in this house. We're coming off a phone right now because I'm in the
Oh
south.
my God.
I've got no internet, so I've had to pull some pieces together to make everything happen. So I still
Wow.
it's still
That's
happening.
amazing. Wow. Okay. So anyway, in order to work with the master now, all you really have to do is go into a slight meditative state. You don't have to be an expert meditator because a lot of people aren't. All you've got to do is take a couple of nice big deep breaths and really feel yourself relax as you sit there with your eyes closed. And then you simply ask a question. You ask a question of the darkness. You don't worry about the target. You don't worry about anything. You just ask the question. And what you'll find is that you will receive an answer eventually. If you don't receive anything at all at first, all you've got to do is wait for the answer. When you wait for something, when you are listening, and when you are listening, you are in meditation. Because if you think about it, let's say you're outside and you're walking through the forest and there's a bird sound or there's an animal sound and you're like, oh, what was that? What do? You stop moving, right? Because you don't want to brush up against yourself anymore. You don't want to step on any twigs or anything. You don't want to make any sounds. So you stop moving. Then what do you do mentally? You just go, like your brain goes blank because all you're trying to do is hear the sound of that bird or that animal or whatever again. That, my friends, is meditation. So when you are in that meditative state and you ask a question, then you listen for the answer. Just like when Tara asks me a question, she doesn't go, hey, what do you think about this? And then like interrupts me before I have a chance to answer, right? She listens for me to respond. So that's what you're doing when you're speaking to the voice of universal knowledge or to the master. So you're just waiting for a response. You don't try to answer it yourself. Now, for everybody, it's going to be different. For some of you, you're just going to kind of instantly know something and you'll be like, oh, well, I already know the answer to that. And that's because you've just received it from the master, right? Or you actually will hear a thought form that might not seem like it's generated from your own normal thought place. So that's an answer. Or you might get visuals and you'll be like, oh, I'm seeing, myself doing this or whatever. So really it's fairly simple. And one of the most important things is, oh geez, and I just forgot what it was. So important. That's hilarious. Like I had it and then it just went, it's not important. I guess not. Well, let me say this and maybe it'll come back to me. Yeah. So let me say this. So you've got the child and you've got the master, right? Unfortunately, we kind of have a third being or a third aspect of ourselves. And I like to call it the adult. The adult thinks it's the master. So when you go to ask the question, the adult is the one that's trying to answer. Like, well, no, it should be this or it should be that. And it's using the limited understanding that it has of this 3D reality to try to answer the question. It's using the 5-year plan. It's using data. It's using information to try to answer that question for you. And it has had a lot of pressure on itself to try to be smart. Oh, I use common sense and I use intelligence and I use wisdom and I use book knowledge and I use, everyone says that we should do that. That's the adult mind. And the adult mind also has no patience for the child. It has no patience, or it says it's the one that's saying, we don't have time for that. We don't have enough money for that. We've got this responsibility. We should be doing this instead. That's the adult mind. And the adult mind generally doesn't unconditionally love. It doesn't unconditionally love the child. It doesn't even know that the master exists. Meanwhile, the master and the child unconditionally love all. So that's why those two are the ones to focus on and to be as much as you possibly can. The adult generally leads you down the wrong path almost all the time. So stepping away from that adult mind and moving into those other ones, huge. Hello?
You know what? No, I'm just letting it sink in. It's just like, yeah, just the way that you phrase that, it just makes it super simple for people to understand. And you know what comes to me is like, when I'm listening to you, I'm not just listening to you with my ears and the words. and going, oh yeah, I'm going to say that in a minute, and I'm going to say that in a minute. I mean, a little bit I am, because my interviewer head is on, because I want to engage with these really cool things that you're saying. But no, what else is happening is when I'm listening to you, I'm so listening with everything. I'm so present. I'm like breathing with you, looking in your eyes, feeling you. I'm everything. I'm like fully in, going, what? Not just what is Zane trying to say, but what is Zane, where is he saying it from? What's he experiencing right now? And if we could have, and with that curiosity as well, like, what's he going to say?
Mm-hmm.
Like, not what am I going to say, but what's Zane going to say? Where's it going to go?
Right.
Oh my God, he's going to, you know. So how cool is it when we have that relationship, well, one with somebody else, which makes a really good relationship, actually, secret tip there, be present with people.
Right.
But also when we have that love, I guess, that dedication, that meditation with oneself to go, I'm going to be fully present with my inner master, my inner self, whatever word that is, that me, that something in there that knows and has always known and will always know. And whether you call that source, creator, God, Gaia, angels, higher self, inner child, genius, master, in a way, it doesn't really matter, does it, Zane, with the labels? Like, labels to me just don't matter. I get a feeling, I know what I'm being communicated to or by or with. I know what I'm communicating with because it's a relationship that I've built up. And it's a relationship with me. It's that relationship inside, to be so present and just be open and empty and feel and respond. And I was just going to ask you quick, do you say your questions out loud, or is it in your head?
I always do it in my head. You could do it out loud. It doesn't matter.
No, I always found, because I have so much going on in my head, I was a real thinky person, like really cerebral, really like, and find it, my thoughts are quite like quicksilver. So sometimes it's hard for me to kind of stay in one thought.
Yeah.
And there's so many other thoughts going on, like there's a lot of things happening in my mind. And I think, you know, other people will relate to this. And what I found works really well, coming as well from that child space, is like, I'm going to say it out loud.
Sure.
Because then I can actually hear myself say it. Something to do with the reverberation of the words.
Yeah.
Something to do with the pause. And for me, it just get it out of my head, because I had that time where I wasn't yet validated by somebody else. And I just used to think I was, you know, it's all, I'm just imagining it. It's all in my head. It's not really real that I can do all these things and talk to all these things. It's just a weird, quirky little me thing, and nobody else sees it, and it's just not real, right? So I was shut down about it, or I was kind of secretive about it, which thankfully it took me a long time, but I'm not anymore. But that being able to talk it out loud it started a conversation, and it gave me the space to receive an answer and know that it wasn't coming from up here, from the same place I'd asked it from, essentially.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that
really
works really well. Yeah, I think that's huge. And when we say things out loud, it feels different. You know, if you think, I love myself unconditionally, and then you say it out loud, I love myself unconditionally, it's a little bit of a different feel. A lot of times you know more about what you just said when you actually say it out loud as opposed to yourself. And I just remembered the thing that I had forgotten a moment ago. Yeah. And that is that one of the most important things when it comes to learning something about yourself is to instead say, why do I always get angry when blah, blah, blah happens? To say, why does Zane always get upset when blah, blah, blah happens? So you refer to yourself in the third person. You say your name rather than I. It moves you from this position to this position. And you're looking down at yourself and seeing yourself as this being. But you're what perspective are you using? You're using like your higher self's perspective. Oh, why does Zane always get mad about this? You know, and then the information that comes through is easier and easier and easier to come from that higher position. And it comes out really fast and easy.
Yeah, right. You see the obvious that you couldn't see when you were so in it, in that one-dimensional, insular me space, to actually going into relationship and externalizing and then relating with yourself in a new way.
Right.
I mean, I do a similar thing, although I would say, oh, I'm so sorry, me, grown up Tara, that you're feeling really, you've done that thing again. I'm sorry. I feel you. And my first point is to go into empathy and like, I'm there with you. And now what do you need? And I love you. And in that love, then like all the new possibilities just open, and it's not the same state. So it's kind of similar, right? It's really cool, because then there's lots of different ways for people to do it, but essentially it's the same trick, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Same, just a different name. So how do you know when it's real? So when you started, because you've become, I mean, you say you're a Hathor channeler, and perhaps you could just quickly tell people what Hathors are if they don't know. But I think more and more people these days, I mean, I get lots of messages from people saying that their gifts are opening up, they started channeling, and is it real, and how do they know? And what would you say to people? How do you know? What is real? How do you know to trust yourself with it?
I don't know. Just do it. See what happens, right? Like that's kind of my initial reaction. Who cares? You're trying too hard to figure it out. You're using the left brain, that is the problem-solving brain. And when you get into the left brain, the problem-solving brain, then you're going, well, why is this happening? And how does it happen? And is it real? And am I this? And am I that? And that is essentially a lower vibrational approach. Like the higher vibrational approach is to go, I just know, man. Like I know what's coming through. I know it's great. The other way to do it is to say, okay, this information that's coming through, this statement, is this a high vibrational statement, or is it a lower vibrational statement? And a lower vibrational statement would simply be, I don't like this, or this isn't good, or this is bad, or this is a problem, or you should avoid this, or you shouldn't do that. Any negative kind of statement at all is generally not your higher self, the higher beings of light or whatever. And so you got to kind of get used to what high vibrational thoughts are versus low vibrational thoughts. Everything is perfect exactly as it is. That's pretty high vibrational. I love everything exactly as it is. I am grateful for this. You are a perfect being of light. These are the types of statements. And when you hear those types of statements, then you know, okay, this is coming from the highest possible vibrational source, even though I don't know the identity of that source. And then we get into that. Oh, well, what's the identity? It's very important. Is it my higher self? Is it the Hathors? Is it the Arcturians? Is it the Andromedans? Is it the Pleiadians? Is it the ascended master?
Significance attached to that as well, isn't there? I'm more significant now because I can channel the Pleiadians. Right.
And what's been really fun, and I can tell you all about the Hathors, but generally when I have been asking, and while I was just speaking to the voice, I would try to ask, what's your identity? Who is this? And they would go, it's not important. What's important is the information. And then once I started healing people, I would still ask, who is this? And they go, it's not important. What's important is the healing. So they've definitely taught me that the identity is not important, and it is a left brain thing. We like to categorize things and put them in little boxes. And when we do that, we feel safe. I know where that's coming from. I can be confident in that. I don't have to have fear anymore, blah, 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 right? And so that is a lower vibrational thing that we're trying to do. We're trying to identify the source of this being so that we can feel comfortable. And that is a survival-based mindset, which is a third dimensional mindset, which is lower vibrational than what we need to be or what we'd like to be. So the Hathors were an extra dimensional collective that incarnated here on Earth during Egypt's golden age. There is a temple in Egypt dedicated just to them. If you type in Hathors in the image search on Google, you will see exactly what they look like, and they do have kind of a different facial shape and structure than normal humans. So I was incarnated among them during that time, and they instructed me on how to do my main modalities, and one of them is called the soul essence activation. And so I can go into all of that, but what's important is that what it does for people. How does it help them? It helps them overcome some of their traumas and childhood issues. It, crystallizes DNA, and it enhances the divine feminine and the divine masculine, and, all these wonderful things to really help people. That's what really matters.
Maybe helping us come back to the golden age, or not come back to the golden age, but to live a new golden age.
Correct.
They're pretty masters at that. They've lived it, they know it. And yet this is something that you have a memory or a knowledge of reincarnating from. This incarnation of Hathors has been you, is in you, is in your soul record, is in you. So you reawakened it, right? This moment of awakening happened, and it just happened to be that ayahuasca that just went, right, time for him to wake up now.
Right. Yep.
Because I was going to ask you about that. And because you've been talking about the lower frequency and the higher frequency. And for me, that's real simple. It's like, how does it feel? Kind of good or not so good?
Right.
Which one am I going to go? Am I going to go with a life that's like this or a life that's like that? It's like, which one am I going to follow? However, now this is something that came up this week, and I'm really curious to hear what you want to say about this, Zane. I shared a friend's post, Chris Patterson. Some of my viewers here will remember that I posted that yesterday or the day before. And this is a friend of mine. He had a big old rant about waking people up. Waking people up to the not nice stuff that's happening on the planet. And I don't really want to name it right now. I don't want to go into it.
Sure.
But one of the things begins with S and ends in N. And one of the things begins, it's about children, and it's about abuse, and it's horrific, bad stuff that I personally also believe, I know it's happening. It's been happening for a very, very, very long time on this planet. I'm going to do a video about it soon, guys, so I'm not going to go into it now. But for this friend of mine, Chris, he was like, look, guys, and I had a day like this as well a few days ago. I was like in tears for 2 days. Suddenly, another wave of it hit me. I was just like, whoa, we've got to do more. Is this awakening, Zane, in your book? When people talking about waking people up, is it waking people up to the really dark stuff that's going on in this world and waking up to that, which then people can, go into their own version of chaos and trauma and fear and depression and helplessness, perhaps? Or is the waking up being the heart of the child and kind of going, no, I'm a being of light and everything's just wonderful, and I'm just going to focus on that as my reality? What would you say about that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I really like the way you framed it and described it. So, of course, knowing what's going on is still a waking up experience, whether it's a positive thing or a negative thing. Now, I think that the true waking up comes after you've been wakened to the horrors that are going on, right? The true waking up is to say, oh, okay, well, we are all source, every single one of us, the abuser and the abused, the warmonger and the soldier and the innocent person. We are all source, and we decided all of this. This is what we wanted. This is what we created. So from an individual standpoint, that was in their soul contract that they are going to be abused, and that it is the abuser. I think that both are terrible, essentially, because if you're the abuser, what a burden you're carrying with you. You decided before you were born to say, yeah, I'm going to abuse children. Whoa, that's, what are you carrying with you? This is not an awesome thing, right? And in order to do that, you were probably abused as a child yourself in order to get to the point where you would do that to others. So that means that they're carrying with them all of the pain and all the suffering that all the people are that they're doing the thing to. So there's nobody that's winning on this situation, right? So understanding all of that, it is part of this experience. And so if we are just one, and we decided, hey, this time I'm going to be this Zane guy, and he's going to have this awesome life, and all these amazing things are going to happen, and he's going to have his challenges, but he's going to help people, and he's going to have joy, and he's going to have all this. Then when I'm all done with that, and I die and I wake up and I go, oh my gosh, okay, everything was me this whole time. Every person that I talked to, every being that I interacted with, every plant, every rock, every planet, every black hole was me. Okay, that was pretty awesome. Let's do it again. What do I want to, what do I want to do this time? Okay, well, let me be an abuser. Let me see what that feels like. Okay, oh man, oh geez, I'm being abused. I'm having this suffering life. It's very difficult. I'm going to make other people pay, and I'm going to have these terrible things. I'm going to, do these terrible things to these other people. Oh my gosh, this is so rotten and awful, yuck, and this is terrible. And I have this moment of satisfaction because I made them feel bad or whatever. And then I die and I wake up and I go, oh my gosh, oh wow, okay, that was all me. Every person that I interacted with, every rock, every tree, every planet, every black hole. Wow, that was amazing. That was crazy. Let's do it again. And then we just keep repeating it. So there's nothing wrong with anything that's happening because we've set it up for ourselves.
Why did we do that, Zane? In your experience, why did we do that?
Because we wanted to feel what it feels like. Okay, so us as source is we cannot feel romantic love. We are both yin and yang. We, in order to create a romantic partner for ourselves, we would just have to create it and make it love us. It doesn't feel so great. Like, that's not going to work, right? Okay, I can't be surprised. I can't be surprised because I know everything that is, and I know how to create everything, and everything has to be created by me in order for it to exist. Okay, well then I also can't have pain. I can't be worried. I can't have fear because I can't die. I know that I'm infinite, and fear comes from death. The only way to have fear is to know that you can die or have that death possibility. I can't breathe because there's no reason to breathe, on and on and on. From this infinite place, there's an awful lot I cannot do. So the only way to do these things is to intentionally forget that we're source and to intentionally remove a lot of our power and put ourselves into one of these beings so that we can see what it feels like. Then all of a sudden we take it seriously. Oh my gosh, I could die. And oh, romantic love, this feels so great. Oh, and oh, I could be surprised. I didn't see that coming. And so you get to have all these experiences, all the positive and all the negatives. And then again, when you die, you wake up and you're like, oh, right, I did that. That was awesome. I got to experience that. Let's do it again.
And did your knowledge of source tell you this, or your universal knowledge? See, isn't this funny? Because when I talk to source, I get exactly the same thing. Right? Yeah. And nobody has to tell you, oh, that's true.
Right.
Scientist dad doesn't need to come along, or any dad, bin man dad, whatever, come along and say, oh yeah, that's true, you can believe that, you're right. We don't have to have validation when it comes to truth, do we? When you know, and you just know, and you experience it then.
Right.
I was wondering what your scientist self, when you were talking about your various self, I was like, I wonder what Zane's scientist self would say about him speaking on this show and all the things.
Oh yeah, it would be really fun to go back. And go, what's going on? What happened?
Yeah. But also, you've said something. I really, really love what you've said, Zane. I totally love you for being on this show and for saying all these things. And totally, I concur. I'm with you, buddy. But also, you addressed something that I've been wanting to speak about for a few weeks, because some time ago, I said something about a certain person who lives in America of quite high importance with the name that begins with T. And I showed some love and support for this person. And then some people, I'm not quite sure what happened in their head, but I know it wasn't good. And they decided that because I said that I love Hitler. And so they've been going, well, you're a Hitler lover, right? And there's a couple of times it's happened and people have called me a Hitler lover. And I just want to set the record straight, guys. You are right. Mm-hmm. I absolutely do love Hitler. And I remember I was 14 and learning about the Second World War in school. And we were learning about what Hitler did. And I was just like, that's pretty bad. But, I had that thought, what a soul to have come into this world. And there are lots of these kinds of people. He's not the only guy. He's maybe one of the most prominent and easy to remember guys, but he's definitely not the only one. But there's this guy who comes in and takes that much hatred from other human beings, does such heinous things to his fellow men, women, children, everything. We perhaps don't even know the extent of it because a lot of it has been hidden and covered up. So we don't even know, but we know it's bad, right? We know it's bad.
Super bad.
And as the 14-year-old learning this in school, my heart was like, my goodness, what an incredible soul to come into this world, to incarnate into that identity, into that person who's going to perpetrate such hideous things and be hated by so many and go down in history as this bad person. What kind of a soul do you have to be to come down to be that person? And in order for us to have contrast, in order for us to be able to go, you know what, that's not such a nice thing. We don't want that to happen anymore. Let's now do something different. Let's, like you said, wake up and let's make new choices. What actually is important to us? Oh my goodness, love is important to us. Actually looking after other people and helping other people is important to us. Actually protecting our children and our loved ones is important to us. Living in a world of peace is important to us. Now, we wouldn't choose that as this human third dimensional species in this world of duality and contrast and dark and light, unless we had something dark and nasty to happen, right? Because like you said, if we were all just source all the time, we would just be light all the time and be like, that's boring. How can you create from that space? You can't. You need to do what the flower of life does, which is separate, create an illusion of separation, to have relationships and to start bringing in other elements and start creating. So anyway, that was a long-winded version, but essentially I was like, I felt love for Hitler at a 14-year-old kid in school, going, wow, what a soul. Thank you for being that, so that we can learn about we should not do that anymore.
Right.
You know, and people were like, how can you love Hitler? I'm like, isn't there a Hitler inside every single one of us? Maybe that doesn't do those acts. Maybe some people don't even think that badly. I mean, I wouldn't think about, but you know, I can be mean. I can have bad thoughts. I can have hateful feelings in my heart. And if I let myself grow that way and shut myself off from, you know, I can see how that happens. And like you, it's like when that happens to people, which it does, and it has, and there are lots of people that have got very dark, very interned, very away from the love and away from the light, and in that, you know, nasty space. What do they need to come back home? For me, it's like that absolute unconditional compassion to see who they are as a soul, who they are as their true being. I mean, actually, you know, what brings every single person back from that darkness is love. It's unconditional love. For me, that's the only path. It's the only way to heal. And so if we can't have love, you know, love doesn't say, I'll love you if you're good and I won't love you if you're bad. Love says, no, I love you no matter what, right? That's love. So yes, I can love Hitler. I do love Hitler. I have that love and compassion. Can't we all? Don't we all really deep down? Doesn't that inner child inside every single one of us, doesn't that master that you spoke of inside every single one of us, don't we all have that unconditional, you know what, I see you and I'm just going to love you?
Right. Yeah. So what you're essentially saying is that there is no good and no evil, because in order to have good or evil, you have to have judgment. And as source, we don't judge our own creation. It just is. It just simply is. So we look at Hitler as is, and we look at Gandhi as is. We don't look at like, oh, this is bad and I'm judging this, and look at all the pain and suffering, and then look at all the wonderful and the beauty and the love and the caring and all that. I like that better than this. Otherwise, you couldn't create anything. You have to love it all or you wouldn't create it. So if you want to move into the highest possible vibration, you move out of judgment. Judgment is a third dimensional experience. It is a survival mechanism. Think about our tribal selves. At the very beginning, what did we use judgment for? You didn't collect enough berries. You're making too much noise and you're attracting the saber-toothed tigers to us. You got to stop. I am judging you to stop right now. You judge yourself. Oh my gosh, maybe I'm the one that's making too much noise. I don't want to kill my tribe. I don't want to be ousted by my tribe. I've got to stop doing that. So judgment is a very important part of survival, but it ends there. Once you get into the fourth or fifth dimension, there's no more judgment. There's no reason for it. It only gets in the way. It only causes you to lower your vibration. So that's why we can move into unconditional love. Now, unconditional love, you could say, well, but isn't love a positive? And so isn't love a judgment? No, unconditional love means I love no matter what. You can unconditionally love yourself a lot easier if you unconditionally love yourself. You just go, well, even though I have a loud, annoying laugh, and even though I ran over that squirrel with my car, and even though I pissed that person off or I hurt someone, I still love myself anyway. Oh, well, that's fairly easy to do, because it's only through judgment that makes it hard to love yourself. If you've got this bar that you've set for yourself, well, I haven't gotten to this yet, and until I get to that, I can't love myself. That's real. Yeah.
It comes back to the fear. I mean, you said it earlier. The only thing that we're really afraid of ultimately is death. And so actually, if we know, we carry on. I mean, how many years ago, roughly, do you reckon you were a Hathor?
Oh, right. That's a good question. I actually haven't tried to figure that out.
Sorry, I just threw that one in there.
Yeah, well, I don't know. When was Egypt's golden age? 3,000 years ago? Something like that.
Apparently.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. But
sure, that's your number.
Different things. It depends which books you read. But yeah, if that's your number, like you remember, you have memories that you tap into, you connect with from 3,000 years ago. So did you die? Huh, curious, right?
Right.
Curious.
Yeah, my physical body died, but yeah.
Yeah, and isn't it nice to get a new one?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And one of the things I've recently been talking about is our brains are an organ. Our hearts pump blood. Our stomach helps us digest. Our brain organ just creates thoughts. That's its entire purpose. It's not there to be it's just there to generate thoughts. So if it's only generating thoughts, then who are we? We are our higher selves, or we are the multidimensional being that we are. And so we listen to our thoughts. We're like, oh, these are interesting thoughts. Thanks, brain. Mm-hmm. But we don't have to be those thoughts.
I love it. You're exactly right. And somebody actually said something like that to the contrary, something like, I think, therefore I am. Someone said that.
Right.
Oh, really? You didn't talk to the knowledge of the universe, did you? You didn't talk to your higher self. So that's not true. And people will, quote on things like that, but that's true. It's like, well, no, it isn't. And I completely agree with you. Zane, I don't know how much longer you want to chat on here. And I'm, taking a few moments here to read people's comments as well. And Maria Payne is saying, I can't pronounce your surname, Maria, I'm sorry. And she's saying, yes, we are in the golden time, the time of remembrance and elevation. And yeah, I absolutely agree. This is the golden age. And we know this, right? And even our inner grown-ups, our inner critics, our inner scientist, might say, don't be silly. This is not the golden age. Look how messed up everything is. You can't be serious. Go and fly your unicorn. You're not with it. We know, right? We know. When you know, and you just know, and it doesn't matter what anybody else says. You just know.
Right.
In terms of other dimensions, there's kind of two things. I don't know how much longer you want to talk, Zane, but what you just said about so if we're a source and we wake up after we've died and everything was me and it's all me, and it's like, how beautiful. Yet also we talked about decisions and making transformational decisions and how powerful it is. So it's like there's like everything in this universe, there's that contrast, right? On one hand, yes, everything is love and we are everything and we are source. Absolutely. So on one level, it doesn't matter. Does it matter if children are being raped and tortured? Does it matter if we have to wear masks for another 10 years and we can never have our freedom back? Does it matter? Or do we need to make a choice? Is there a waking up? What do you feel?
Well, again, I go right back to what feels right. What do you want to do? Where's your excitement lie? And anytime you're being abused or there's somebody who's antagonizing you or whatever, and they annoy you or make you angry with them or make you feel low in whatever way, they're your greatest teacher. They're your greatest opportunity to grow. So if you were to choose to look at the world and say, oh gosh, we're going to have to wear masks for 10 more years and we can't be in public with each other, that's your greatest teacher. If that drives you absolutely crazy, then that's your greatest teacher. Congratulations. You are finally getting the teacher that you've been wanting your entire life. And whatever goes wrong that you can't handle is your greatest teacher.
That's a good place to listen to and have a conversation with, isn't it?
Yeah.
Also, that part of you that's freaking out, I can't handle it. Hello.
Yeah, right.
You need something. What do you need?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. And listen to the wisdom in that.
Well,
No, that's beautiful.
and can't handle it. Okay, I can't handle it. That's a very interesting statement. What is that statement actually saying? It's just you're self-perpetuating that thought. If you say that you cannot, then okay, well, what does that actually mean? I can't handle it. Does that mean that one more day and you're just going to keel over dead because you can't handle it? Or does it mean that you are going to go into a state of depression? Okay. Whatever it means, as long as you believe that that's what'll happen, then that's what'll happen. So if you need, the brain, the thought generator organ, you actually have control over it, just like you have control over your breathing. If you choose to, you can change your breathing pattern completely. If you choose to, you can change that organ completely and say, oh, I want to think about something like what it's like when it rains. And then you can picture the sound of the rain on your roof. You can picture the smell of the rain in the air. You can picture what it feels like against your skin. When you go into that, all of a sudden, that's the only thing you're thinking about. So you actually have control over what that organ is spitting out. But if you just let it go, just like you're breathing, you'll go into a rhythm, or you'll go into a habitual pattern. And if that habitual pattern says things like, I can't handle it, then that's what you're creating for yourself. So now you go into, I can handle anything. Say that. Just keep saying that over and over again. I can't handle it. I mean, no. I can handle anything. Even if you don't believe it, right? Just say it anyway. Smile when you say it. Fake a smile. I can handle anything. And then eventually your brain goes, well, we're smiling, so that must be a positive thing. And we keep saying the same thing over and over again. And we need to have an emotional response, because that's the way that the body works. So what emotional response am I going to choose for this? We've got a smile and we've got these positive thoughts. So I guess I need to find a positive emotion to back this up. Okay, well, we're going to put some optimism. Let's go optimism. Wow, I can handle anything. Amazing. And so that is the way that you reprogram yourself from these negative things and negative thoughts and negative beliefs to positive ones.
And also, as you were saying that, I was like, and give the inner child the job. Okay, you can't, grown up you can't handle it. Okay, little inner child me. Hello, little me. What do you want to do? Well, you know what? I just want to go and play, or whatever it is. I want to go and paint. I want to go and dress up. I want to go and write a book or sing it or something. That inner child would be like just waiting for the chance to actually come up with the solution, because kids always, they have that inner genius about them, don't they? The children. They just they snap you out of it. They're just pure joy. And so somewhere inside of us, there still exists that little inner child of pure joy that knows exactly what to do. If only your grown up can't do this self would just get out of the way, right? That's what it made me think of. Your little me.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so I'm merging all these different things together.
You're totally tapestrying everything. the inner heart of a child, it keeps coming back to that, doesn't it? And so just one more thing. I mean, I could keep talking to you and asking.
This is very fun. I do have something coming up fairly soon, so
I'll wrap it up soon. I will wrap it up, because I actually imagined that this conversation might go down okay, let's talk about other dimensions and realms and psychic stuff, and it kind of hasn't, but it's been really practical as well as quite far out, which I really love, because spirit is very practical in my opinion.
Yeah, I do a lot of I mostly talk about practical, actually.
Well, spirit is practical, isn't it? I mean, it's not wifty-wafty. It's actually here breathing through our bodies, making us alive. So spirit is very, very practical. And to talk about it in simple terms is my favorite way. And everything that you're saying is like, oh yeah, I'm loving this. But just quickly, because you were talking about, tapping into those higher dimensions. What does that mean for you? do you tap into higher dimensions or other dimensions? Do you travel through dimensions? Do you see things, hear things, experience things? Like, what is that other dimensional? Because this is a fairly new word. You know, people didn't talk about dimensions as freely 3 years ago as they do now. This year, last year, fifth dimension was popping out more than ever before. And so what does that mean, really, from your experience, and what have you experienced?
Right. Okay. Well, it's great, because as soon as you said that, one of the feedback things that I received, I generally receive, is some sort of like tingling across my forehead. And as soon as you said, do you go to different dimensions? It was just like bling, you know. So it was like, yeah, we do. Like they were like, yeah,
for no reason.
tell her about this. So yeah, like anytime I go into a meditative state and I really work at it a little bit, or not work at it, but just sit there for long enough, then I move into that space. And I don't know how to describe it. That's an interesting one. It's and I always do it when I'm doing my modality, when I'm doing my healing work. Am I there? Did
You're
you lose
there.
me?
I'm still there. You're still there. I've got you.
It says my internet connection is unstable.
No, I can still hear you and see you, Zane.
Mm-hmm.
You're good.
La la la.
You're good.
Have I come back yet?
I'm going to type you a message. You're good.
Oh, I'm back? Okay, good. All right, cool. We can still hear me? Okay, cool. I just can't hear you. All right, so okay, good. Well, you saw me dancing a little bit.
Yep.
Anyway, so yeah, when I'm doing my healing work, then I'm also moving into that vibration. When I'm doing my channeling work, I'm moving into that vibration. How that works is that when we are a higher vibrational being anyway, then when we want to talk to the collectives or whatever, and they're very high vibrational, then what we're going to do is move into that place as best we can, and they're going to lower their vibration so that they connect, so that they synchronize with us. So that has become fairly easy, fairly normal, fairly pedestrian, I guess, because and so as a result, I don't even really consciously go, okay, I'm going to move into the fifth dimension now. I used to do that, but now I find that I can just do it simply by willing the connection to occur.
How do you know which dimension you're in? Uh-oh, can you hear me? Yeah, Zane, you can't hear me. I'm going to type this message to you. Can anybody still hear me and see me on Facebook? Just let me know. Can you someone type in if you can still see me and hear me? Zane, can you hear me?
Let's see here. I wonder if there's something that I can do.
I think we're still live, guys.
Yeah. Oh, I can kind of hear you now.
My computer tells me I'm still live. Oh, cool.
Let's see if there's any difference.
I was just asking you. I was just asking, how do you know which dimension you're in? Yeah, everyone can still hear me. And you can still hear me. I think it's just you, Zane.
Yeah,
everyone
I'm hearing you.
Can hear you. We can all still see and hear you. You're good. Thanks, people.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really think about that very much, I guess. I don't really go, okay, what dimension am I in?
Right, because you said it earlier, you're not really into the labels, huh?
Right, yeah. So it's fairly easy to move into the higher ones, but I'm not sitting there going, okay, where's the checklist? Like, okay, now we're at the fifth, now we're at the sixth, So it's when the information is coming through, like that lighting up of the forehead that I was talking about. When I go into that meditative state, when that lights up, I know that I'm now in communication with the beings that I'm working with, generally the Hathors. And so that's all really I concern myself with.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. I love that you don't get specific about it, because I don't either. And it's just really nice. I mean, I was thinking about it earlier. I used to spend a lot of time when I was doing readings with people, soul readings and healing, and I would be obviously in the room with the person, but I'm also in a space which is enormous. And there's just loads and loads and loads of different kinds of beings, all different colors and dimensions and shapes and sizes and lights. And just, it was like almost having a representative of everywhere in a great big circle. And it never occurred to me to go, oh, I wonder what that person's name is, and and where they're from. And it was just like, oh, cool. Here's the gang, and whatever comes through comes through. It's like whatever's needed in that moment, it was available to come through for that person. And it just felt like, again, for me, it was very much just being super open, not having an agenda, not having a thing that I needed to attain, not having I've got to heal this person or any of that. It was just like, I'm just going to breathe and open and be in that place, receptive and open, dedicated to the source. And it sounds to me like that was your first calling. And for me too, it was like getting connection with the real heart of the essence of the thing. And then everything else is just a beautiful flavor of that, right? I don't know, that's how I experience it. And I really love that you do that too. I don't know, it just feels, it's just easy and simple.
Yeah, right. And to go with the flow really means that you're in a flow state. And when you're in a flow state, you are not in a state of resistance. And when you're not in a state of resistance, then everything is going to go very smoothly and very easily. Whatever you resist persists, right? So
yeah, and not in that state of judgment, because that's what will shut you down again and put you back into your mind and that grown up.
Am I really helping them? Are they really getting something out of this? Am I really truly in the fifth dimension? Am I blah blah blah? This is
So we can just love that part of ourselves and say, come on, you don't need to think like that. I'm going to give you a hug.
Right.
Let's get on with it. Let's stay open.
Yeah. Just love yourself anyway, even if you're being silly, being ridiculous, whatever. Enjoy it. You're perfect exactly as you are.
That's beautiful. Have you got anything else? Is there anything you want to share with anybody? Finally, any messages from your tingly forehead right now coming through?
Right. Yeah, well, yes, this one. And it's one that I received a long time ago, but when it comes up all the time. And so this is for anyone watching right now. You are perfect. You've never made a mistake in your entire life. It's impossible. It's gotten you to exactly where you are right now. So congratulations, you did it. And like I just said, it's impossible to ever make one moving forward either. You will always get to exactly where you're supposed to be. And so you can rest and relax and flow with that direction for the rest of your life. So congratulations, you did it and you'll do it.
Yes. And is that true for the whole planet, do you think? Mm-hmm. Is that true for Gaia and the ascension process, do you think?
It's true for absolutely everything. There is no other way. There is no other avenue or option.
That's the done deal. That's the reality, isn't it?
Right.
That is the reality that we're talking about, that you're talking about, that's where everything comes from. So that's what everything is and will be.
Right.
And always will be.
Yes.
Always has been.
Yes.
I'm just going to let everybody just waft out of this conversation, holding that like, moment, or whichever one works for you. And Zane, Daniel, thank you so much. I put your website, people can find you, zanedaniel.com. Go check out your comic,
free.righteouscomic.com.
Right, I was going to get there, righteouscomic.com, and we can come find you for the Higher Self Expo and all the other cool things, and go to your Facebook page and we'll just come check you out.
There's actually a big retreat this weekend with myself and Geraldine Orozco. It actually starts tomorrow. It's 3 days. It's like a full-on retreat, as though you're going to a place, but you get to do it from home.
Yeah, 3 days with you.
yeah, 3 days with me and Geraldine. and there's a yoga instructor for each day, and so it's the full thing, and it's like $200. So everybody should join that, because it's amazing, the information and the healing. I'm going to be doing almost all of my modality healings over those 3 days, plus hers. It'll be quite the transformation experience.
Wow, I feel that actually, the energy of coming off you when you said that is absolutely superpowered. How do people find out?
So if you go to my website and you go to classes, it's going to be the first one on the list.
Okay. ZaneDaniel.com classes. Go find out. Thank you so much. You're an absolutely fabulous guest. I knew you would be. You're just brilliant. I love you to bits. You're super shiny. Thank you for sharing.
Takes one to know one, my dear. You're amazing. One of the best interviews I've probably ever had in my life. Fantastic.
Oh, you're rocking. I love it. I love it. I could keep asking you questions, but I'm going to let you go because you're a busy guy.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again.
We will do it again for definite. Love you loads, Zane. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for watching and for sharing and for liking and commenting and being part of this wonderful, ever expanding light being community of people that are just, following source and being in love. Rocking it, everyone. Love you super much. Mwah! Good night, God bless, and goodbye.
Bye.